What separates the employees who remain in the same position for years from the people who seem to rise quickly? Is it talent, education, connections, or is it just luck? Sometimes those things can certainly play a role, but in my experience, the people who get promoted quickly usually combine several important qualities. They produce strong results, they solve problems, they demonstrate leadership before they receive the title, and they communicate their value well. And they become people the organization can trust with greater responsibility. Now, before we go any further, you may be wondering, why should you listen to me about this? Well, I say this with all humility. Throughout my career, nearly in every organization I worked for, which was basically two, and across several different departments, I was consistently promoted within a year. Sometimes I was promoted more than once within the same year. And I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm saying it because I have spent a lot of time thinking about how and why. And let me tell you, there was no Machiavellian strategy. There was no career warfare, no manipulation. I wasn't reading books about how to outmaneuver my employees, flatter powerful people, or create some carefully calculated persona. What helped me advance was much simpler. It was a combination of attitude, action, results, and relationships. And most of all, a willingness to step forward when other people stepped back. Let's talk about a simple strategy on how to do it right now. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk practical wisdom for leadership and life. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and I've learned that leadership is about how we show up for people, how we navigate change, and how we continue growing. Right now on today's episode, become impossible to overlook. And even better, get promoted faster in your career. Welcome to the Leading Life Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to grow, lead, and live with purpose. As always, I promise no fluff, no empty motivation, just actionable steps that you can get into and practice today to become better at what you do. I'm your host, Andy Zook, and let me begin with something important. Getting promoted more quickly does not mean cutting corners. It does not mean playing politics. It does not mean taking credit for somebody else's work. And it certainly does not mean pretending to be somebody you're not. But getting promoted faster means becoming so capable, prepared, trusted, and valuable that promoting you begins to feel like the next logical decision. The last thing I will ever encourage you to do is go halfway on anything. But I'm also not going to tell you that hard work alone always guarantees an advancement. It doesn't. There are incredibly hardworking people around us who remain overlooked for years. It's wrong, but some work quietly and assume their results will eventually speak for themselves. Some people become indispensable in their current role, but never demonstrate that they're ready for the next one. I don't want that to happen to you. So this episode is about becoming ready. It's about making your readiness visible, and it's about learning how to recognize whether your current organization is truly willing to invest in your growth to begin with. All right, let's get into it. Here's how I did it. Number one, become excellent at the job you already have. So before you start thinking about the next position, make sure you're producing strong results in the position you already hold. Yeah, that sounds obvious, right? But it's a foundational quality. You have to meet expectations consistently. You can't just do it sometimes. You have to be dependable and proven that you can deliver results. You meet your deadlines. You produce high quality work. You follow through on what you said you were going to do, and you understand the standards of your role and take ownership of reaching them. Managers need to know that they can depend on you. Not occasionally, not when you're motivated, not when senior leaders happen to be watching, but consistently. Your reputation is built through repetition. Let's say that again. Your reputation is built through repetition. Every time you follow through, you make another deposit into that trust account. Every time you fail to communicate or miss a deadline or a commitment, you make a withdrawal. But here's where this becomes a little more complicated. Doing your current job well does not automatically prove that you're going to do the next job well. Strong current performance earns trust. Demonstrated potential earns promotion. Remember that. And that's the difference. You could be the best salesperson in the building, but that doesn't mean necessarily you're ready to lead the whole sales team. You could be the most technically skilled person in the department, but that doesn't automatically mean you can coach people, resolve conflict, and communicate a strategy or make the difficult decision. To become promotable, you have to do your current job well while gradually demonstrating the judgment and capabilities required at the next level. Ask yourself a couple of these questions. What would be expected of me in the position above mine? What decisions would I need to make? What problems would I need to solve? What relationships would I need to build? What skills would I need that I haven't developed yet? Start learning those now. Don't wait for someone to hand you a title before you begin preparing yourself to carry it. And I also want to offer another important warning. Do not make yourself so indispensable in your current position that a manager becomes afraid to move you. And that's a dangerous balance there, but some highly capable employees accidentally create a trap for themselves. They know everything about the process. They solve every emergency. They hold all the information. Nobody else can do it like they can. And that might feel like job security, but can also be handcuffs and make advancement more difficult. So a strong leader doesn't create dependence. A strong leader creates capability. Document what you know, train other people around you, share information, and build a strong bench behind you. Okay? Remember that. Build a strong bench behind you. Help someone else become capable of taking on more responsibility. And then when you develop people around you, you demonstrate that you're not simply a great individual performer. You're demonstrating leadership. Okay, the second thing I did was become a problem solver. This is key. One of the quickest ways to separate yourself from the crowd is to become known as someone who solves problems. Every workplace has them, and they have people who identify what's wrong. They can tell you why the plan won't work. They can tell you why the customer's unhappy. They can tell you if the deadline's unrealistic. They notice every obstacle, but they rarely help move said obstacle. So, listen, I have a simple belief. Average employees report problems. Emerging leaders resolve them. So that doesn't mean you have to ignore serious issues or sugarcoat bad news or pretend everything is fine. It just means that when you raise a problem, you're also trying to bring up thoughtfulness, context, and possible solutions. So instead of saying, hey, you know what? I don't know if this is going to work. Try saying, here's the issue I'm seeing. Here's the potential impact. And here are two possible ways we could address it. See the difference? That changes the entire conversation. You are no longer simply handing your manager another problem. You are helping your manager think through it. You are reducing the burden instead of adding to it. Throughout my career, one of the things that helped me was a willingness to step into the challenge. When something needed to be improved, fixed, organized, rebuilt, or led, I was always willing to raise my hand. Now, not recklessly, not because I believed I had every answer, but because I was willing to learn, act, and take responsibility. So volunteer for opportunities that help you develop a valuable skill, create measurable impact, create meaningful exposure, or demonstrate readiness for the greater responsibility. Remember, there's a difference between helpful and then becoming the office pack mule. Don't let that be you. Be willing, but be intentional. All right, the third thing I did was lead like you already have the title. Yeah, a title gives you authority, right? But it cannot automatically give you influence. Some people have impressive titles, but nobody trusts them. Other people have no formal authority at all, yet coworkers naturally will seek their advice, respect their judgment, and follow their example. That's the emerging leader. If you want to get promoted, begin demonstrating that you can positively influence the environment around you. Help newer employees. Share what you know. Encourage someone who is struggling. Raise the standard also without becoming self-righteous. Stay steady when pressure rises. Give credit when the team wins. Accept responsibility when you make a mistake. This is the biggest one, I think. Be someone who makes the people around you better. But let's be clear. Leading without a title does not mean you start acting like everyone's boss. Please don't make that mistake either. Nobody enjoys the coworker who receives one small responsibility and suddenly starts ordering everyone around. And I've seen that, and man, it is annoying. And they crush themselves. They fall on their own sword. Remember that leadership isn't about making yourself appear powerful. It's about becoming useful. It's about helping people find clarity. It's your willingness to have honest conversations. It's the emotional control to disagree without becoming disrespectful. A future leader should reduce unnecessary drama, not create more. So that brings us to emotional intelligence. Ask yourself these questions. Can you receive feedback without becoming defensive? Can you work with people who think differently than you? Can you listen to understand instead of simply waiting for your turn to speak? Can you handle disappointment without poisoning the atmosphere? And can you remain professional when you feel overlooked? These moments reveal your leadership potential. Anyone can appear confident when everything is going their way, but the real character comes out when it isn't. And remember this, organizations often see a promotion as a risky decision sometimes. So when leaders promote someone, they are not only rewarding past performance, they are trusting that person with customers, employees, handling money, confidential information, business decisions, and the organization's reputation. talent matters, but trust determines how much responsibility people are willing to place in your hands. All right, here's the fourth thing I did. Make your value visible. Yeah, this is where many hardworking people struggle. They believe good work should speak for itself. I thought that for many years of my career. And in a perfect world, it should, but work doesn't always speak clearly. Sometimes it just whispers. Your manager may be overseeing several people, multiple priorities, constant meetings, their phone going off, text messages, customer issues, reports, deadlines. They're overwhelmed. Trust me. They may not see everything you do. Matter of fact, they're only getting a snapshot of it, right? They're getting what your numbers show in their laptop Monday morning. That means you need to learn how to communicate your impact without becoming arrogant or performative. Visibility and optics are not the same as bragging. Professional visibility says, here's what we accomplished, here is the impact it created, and here is what I'm working on next. I can't think of a more perfect way to say it. Keep a record of the projects you completed. Document your improvements. Save positive feedback from customers or colleagues. Know the numbers. Did your sales increase? Did you reduce costs? Did you improve customer satisfaction? Did you shorten the process? Who are you training? How are you improving retention? Don't merely say, I've been working really hard at this. Explain what your work accomplished. That's the difference. Effort matters, but business impact is easier for decision makers to understand. This also means learning the bigger picture. Know your organization's mission, vision, values, and priorities. Do not simply memorize the words on a poster. Understand what they mean. What is the company trying to accomplish? What are their biggest challenges? What does your manager need to deliver? And how does your work right now support those goals? When you can connect your daily activity to organizational impact, you begin thinking beyond your job description and you begin thinking like a leader. The other part is make sure you're building relationships across the organization. Real networking is relationship building. Be curious about what other teams do. Learn from people outside your immediate area. Offer support. Ask thoughtful questions. Build a reputation beyond a small circle of people you work with every day. Promotions are often discussed by several decision makers. Your manager may support you, but other leaders may also need to recognize your credibility and your potential. Make your work visible. Build authentic relationships. Let people see what you're capable of. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and I know I've probably said this before in some earlier episodes, but years ago, I ran a really large LensCrafters location, actually the highest volume location in the Southeast United States. And my lab manager was very good at the technical side of his job, but he was also incredibly difficult to work with. One day, my boss calls and asks me to take care of something. And in front of several coworkers, my lab manager basically attempts to kind of clown me in front of them, right? And he said, "Oh, look at you. You just jump and do whatever they ask you to do. They won't do that with me." And I looked at him for a minute. The other two people in the lab are laughing. And I said, "You know what, Bob? One day that phone is going to ring again. And it will probably be an opportunity that leads to a promotion. And who do you think they're going to call? Because I will always be Andy will do, and you'll be Bob won't do." And I wasn't saying that you should have no boundaries or blindly saying yes to everything. I was saying that your attitude becomes your reputation. And guess what? The other two guys in the lab, they stopped laughing. When opportunity calls, leaders remember who consistently stepped forward and who consistently found a reason to step back. All right, number 5. This is the other thing that I did, and that was make yourself easy to trust, thus easy to promote. So we've talked about trust a little bit already, but let's go a little more because there's highly talented people who slow their own advancement because they make themselves difficult to trust. They get in their own way because they gossip. That is just a death trap. Do not engage in gossip. Do not spread gossip. These people also complain constantly. They blame others. They create conflict. I've seen them. I know their type, and I can tell you what, can spot it a mile away now because they may bring great technical skill, kind of like Bob, but they also cause emotional chaos, and it's deadly to your organization. Sooner or later, leaders begin asking, if we give this person more authority, will the problems become bigger? Being easy to promote does not mean being submissive. It does not mean agreeing with everything management says. Trust me, I didn't always agree with it, but it does not mean abandoning your boundaries. It means becoming known as someone who is capable, coachable, dependable, and hear this, emotionally steady, discreet, adaptable, and good for the overall team. I was in the car with one of my last bosses and we were driving to a Rays baseball game in Tampa. And I'll never forget him telling me stories of managers that are older than me. I mean, the stories, it's like you would think he's managing a kindergarten class. Like, it's unbelievable. The lack of emotional steadiness and rational thinking. Great leaders bring concerns forward professionally. They disagree respectfully. They keep their commitments. They stay away from gossip. They protect people's confidence. Treat every employee with dignity, not the people who might help your career. Listen, when I worked at the home office, one of the most important people I talked to every day was the young woman who rang up my coffee at the cafeteria. You know why? First of all, she was just amazing at her job. She was a great part of my day starting. Here's the other reason. She knew everybody and knew what people around me were working on, and eventually led me to make connections with other people in the building to work on new projects. So what I want you to do with this is focus on learning continuously, ask for feedback, take a course, read, study your profession, learn new tools, understand changes in your industry, and seek out the mentors. I'll tell you what, like I always say, when I saw someone doing better than me, doing all the right things, they're the ones that I made connections with. Pay attention to what your strongest leaders do well and pay attention to what your poor leaders do badly, because both are going to teach you. I will tell you I've learned more from bad managers than good ones. Adaptability matters because organizations are constantly changing as well. New systems arrive, right? What's the most dreaded phrase in the office as we're getting a new system? The people who become rigid every time something changes make leadership harder. The people who remain curious, learn quickly, and help others navigate become more valuable. And I want to add one more behavior here that many people overlook, and that is you have to communicate that you want to grow. So in every job I've ever had, which has been really two major corporations, in those companies, I was always clear about what I wanted to do next. So do not assume your manager knows. Do not wait quietly for someone to discover you. That's not going to happen. The chances are very slim. But schedule a thoughtful career conversation. Ask, hey, I want to continue growing within this organization. What results, skills, and behaviors would you need to see from me to consider me ready for the next level? I mean, that's a great way to say it. And that's a very powerful question. It communicates ambition without entitlement. Then get specific. Ask questions like, hey, what skills are you missing? What results would demonstrate readiness? What experiences should you gain? What relationships should you build? Who needs to see your work? What would be a realistic timeline? And most importantly, listen carefully to the answer. Ask for honest feedback, not reassurance. You do not need someone to tell you that you're wonderful. You need useful information that will help you grow. And here's your leadership edge for today's episode. Sometimes the fastest path to advancement is not upward. It may mean moving into another area, accepting a stretch assignment, finding a mentor, joining a growing organization, or taking your proven values somewhere it can be better recognized. Be loyal to the people who are investing in your growth, but do not surrender your entire career waiting for permission from an organization that has shown you there's no path forward. I also want to be clear about something else. I've made mistakes. I didn't move through my career perfectly. Sometimes I went up, then I went down. Then I went up again, and then I went up again and went up again. There were times that I became impatient. There were times that I assumed other people would approach work with the same urgency I did. There was times when I took on too much developing others. There were times when I believed good work would automatically be recognized. And one of the hardest leadership lessons for you to accept is that your readiness and your organization's timing may not always align. You may feel prepared long before that opportunity appears. And when it does, the decision still may go another way, and that can be painful. But do not let one disappointment destroy the professional reputation you've spent years building. I've seen people do that. I want you to remain composed, ask for feedback, keep learning, keep producing, keep your dignity, and then make a clear-eyed decision about what comes next. All right, this is your call to arms for this episode, your promotion readiness challenge. I want to leave you with this thought. I want you to rate yourself 1 to 10 in the following areas: results, problem solving, leadership, communication, visibility, trust and reliability, understanding of the business, readiness for the next role. Be honest. Don't rate the person you hope to become. Rate the person you are demonstrating today. And then ask yourself which one of these areas is currently making it more difficult for a manager to confidently promote me. Maybe your results are strong, but your work isn't visible. Maybe people like you, but you need to create more measurable impact. Maybe you're technically excellent, but you avoid difficult conversations. Just choose one area, not 8 of these, one, and begin working on it this week. Have the conversation, ask for the feedback, volunteer for the next project. Track your results better, help a colleague, learn the skill, solve the problem, and make your ambition visible through action. Because getting promoted quicker and becoming more visible in your company is not about finding a shortcut. It's about accelerating your readiness. Do not spend your career demanding to be noticed. Build the kind of character, capability, and record of results that becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. And I know you're going to do great. That is today's episode, and if this podcast made a positive impact on you, please share it with someone you think needs to hear it, coworker, another leader, a person that plays on your sports team, anybody you think that might like to hear it. I truly appreciate a quick rating or review on whatever platform you hear me on, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next on the Leading Life Podcast. I'm Andy Zook. Remember, I want you to lead with purpose, live with intention, and keep becoming who you were meant to be. But most importantly, I want you to go out today and be the hero in somebody's story. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I can't wait to talk to you on the next episode. Take care. Bye.